It was late, and Casey was tired since she had to cover Alicia's shift, who didn't turn up for work. She didn't blame her. Making burgers all night wasn't exactly fun. But after college, Casey needed a quick job, and, well, this was just as good as any, and it was within walking distance of her apartment, which was nice. Her eyes watched the clock. Just a few minutes to go, and she'd be done. The store was unusually empty, and it was dark outside. Her eyes kept focusing on a busted streetlight that flickered on and off. Every time it flickered, she tapped the counter, gradually forming a beat. As she went on cleaning up the tables, she tapped out a song in her head. It wasn't much, but it was enough to pass the time.
"See you tomorrow, Casey,"
said Mac. She smiled as she went into the back room to get her stuff. Now, Mac was an odd manager and a little creepy. Sometimes she felt him staring at her when she worked, and when she looked over, well, most people would avert their eyes, but Mac didn't. He just kept staring at her. While it was a little unsettling, Casey just chalked it up to Mac being socially awkward and considered him a harmless giant. Casey grabbed her coat and walked out into the cold. It was a dark November night, and she wanted to get home quickly. Her eyes scanned the parking lot. While in the day it bustled with activity, at night, everything went quiet. It was practically empty. A few cars here and there. As she crossed through the lot, her eyes went ahead to the shortcut she'd often take. To use it, you went around the back of the stores and then quickly through a few trees, which would get you out onto the main road in half the time. Behind the stores at this time of night was certainly a challenge. No one would ever be there since it was only used for shipping and receiving, and that ended once all the other stores were closed. There were a few places people could hide, but Casey was always very vigilant and aware of her safety. She maintained one hand in a pocket, always carrying a small knife should she encounter anything unfriendly. She walked through the parking lot at a brisk pace. Before she got to the back of the first store, she stopped. On the edge of the parking lot was a dark van. It appeared empty, possibly abandoned. Its windshield was cracked and the front tires looked flat. Now, growing up, she always took her mom's advice to avoid these kinds of vans, especially in crowded supermarket parking lots. She knew too easily someone could be in there just waiting to pull her in. Her eyes glanced at its darkened windows. It was almost certainly abandoned, she thought. Was it worth her turning around and taking the long way home because someone had dumped a van here? Other thoughts ran through her head. What if a killer put that van there, so she went one way, and that's where the killer was really hiding? She shuddered at the thought. Something was unsettling about it, and she always followed the one advice her mom gave her. If anything creeps you out, just walk away, and walk away quickly. The wind picked up. It was fierce, whistling around her. Time to go. She turned around and she froze, spun around quickly to notice the van swaying. Had she just heard someone call for help, or was that the wind? She couldn't really tell as the wind roared loudly now, beating up against her and the van. Casey, you've already made your decision to leave. Get out of there. Casey's eyes focused intently on the van. It did just move, right? Or was that just the wind? For a moment, as if on command, the wind mellowed and the van swayed again. Hello? Hello? I'm pretty sure it was the wind, my imagination, Casey kept telling herself. But what if it wasn't? Hello? What if someone was in there and needed help? Hello? No answer. Why aren't they answering me? If there is someone in there, they'd answer me, right? What if some killer was whispering help to draw me in closer? Hundreds of things rushed through her mind all at once. The wind had died down now completely, and the van swayed again. Someone or something was definitely in there. Then, it's a dog. There's a dog in there. Hello? She was so focused on the van, she hadn't noticed a large figure coming up from behind her. Just then, she felt someone else's presence and turned quickly around. She jumped back in shock as Mac came walking by her carrying a bowl of water.
Sorry, Casey. Sorry.
She approached the van. She remained in her place.
I found this dog, but I don't know what to do with him. They won't let me keep pets at the home.
Mac approached the back door of the van and took out some keys.
You want to see him?
He waved her over. Casey stepped forward, then stopped. No, Casey. There's something wrong here. I don't know what it is for sure, but listen to yourself. Don't go over there. Don't get lured in by a cute dog. That's death avoidance 101.
Nah, I have to get home.
Mac opened the back of the van. Suddenly, a little black dog raced out and ran right up to Casey. He warmly licked her face.
He's so cute. You want him? I can't keep him.
The dog wagged its tail, happy for Casey's affection.
He have a name? Kruger. Cute name.
Just there and then, she made the decision.
Yeah, I'll take him.
Mac smiled. He leaned into the van and pulled out an empty drinking bowl and a leash. He handed them over to Casey.
You're really okay with this? So I can just have him? Please do,
said Mac.
He's a good guard dog.
Casey and Kruger walked off, taking the long way home. Tonight had been a good night for both her and for Kruger. It only wasn't a good night for the girl who was tied up in the back of Mac's van, Alicia, who hadn't gone to work that night. The girl who had cried for help. Mac closed the doors and watched Casey disappear into the night with Kruger. Maybe one day, it would be Casey's turn to visit the inside of his van. Thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoyed tonight's tale, written and originally narrated by Don't Turn Around. He's another fellow narrator, so be sure to check out his channel, linked in the description. If you have stories you'd like me to narrate for you, please contact me at twitter.com/nerdxcorexcreep or submit them to the Horror Nerds subreddit at reddit.com/r/horrorxnerds. If you enjoy this channel, please consider subscribing, giving a like, and sharing it with your friends. With that, I'll see you in the next video. Have a creepy night.